Hi everyone, welcome to this price action review. Today I'm going through the ES and the NQ. You can see my chart setup in the description. So starting off, we have the overnight high up here. This is the ES I'm starting on, by the way. So we have the overnight high up here, the overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. And I started trading at 8 Central Time, which is this area right here. And so notice that this downtrend, we have this clear push down and then a break. And now when a downtrend gets a break, you can expect prices to attempt a new low. Now, you still have to consider this push up right here. Even though we have this very big push down, this is still the break of this uptrend right here. So uptrend, break, and then price attempting to make a new high for it. Even though there's a huge downtrend right there, we still haven't broken that low right there. And so it's just a battle between the bears and the bulls at this point. The bears want to make a new low after the downtrend break. The bulls want to make a second leg up. And so you just have to stay with what's most prevalent in the moment. Now, right after the break, it gets very choppy and starts going, up and down between the EMA. This is not good because you just don't know what price is going to do. You don't know if price is going to make a second leg up. You don't know if it's going to make a new low. You just have to wait for something more clear than this chop right here. And so when we finally push up right here, you can see it's clearly part of this. It's related to this push up right here. It's a two-legged move. After that push up, we had this little correction down. It was very choppy. And then we start that second one and we have this up measured move in play. And so the bulls are going to want to look to reach this measured move. The bears want to make a new low. Now, when we get this right here, notice we push above the range and above the EMA and we get these two legs back. Now, this is a measured move down. As soon as the measured move is met, it immediately starts pushing back above, closing back above this range right here. And we have room to this measured move up here. So this down measured move has just been met. Price immediately pushing back above the EMA, which acts as support, and it's closing out of this trend line right here. And we still have this up measured move in play with barely enough room to it right there. So this was one tick limit order because, let me just show here. If I put it up, it would have been filled, but I just don't like to push it out too far. Like I always say, I don't mind pushing it out if there's good context for it, considering that this is just a bigger picture two-legged break for this downtrend. We can still expect another leg down, so I wouldn't want to push it out too far, hence the limit order. But even if you entered with a stop, you would have been fine. But, you just want to consider, if you can enter with a limit order to get out before resistance level, then you should do that because, there's really no need to risk it. You would have been lucky here, but you really don't. You really want to keep your target, but within the resistance, not pushing it out. So anyway, we push on lower here. Let me just put this back to where I had it. So we push on lower here. We start this big second leg down. So clearly, this was just acting as a bigger picture break. At first we had this little break, price attempting a new low, it gets very choppy, but all price needed was a bigger picture break, and then we're still getting that same second leg down. So first leg down, break, second leg down. As soon as that measured move is met, price starts finding resistance. Not, it doesn't just take off the other direction, but it just has a little reaction to it before pushing lower here. And then we finally get two attempts to fade. Now, when you break out of an overnight level or even just a range level, you don't want to immediately buy the breakout. In this case here, short the breakout. You don't want to just immediately short it once you see red bars pushing out the lows. You want to wait for two clear attempts to fade. And then here, this is what we get. We have our first attempt to fade and our second attempt to fade. Let me just draw them up here. Now here's the problem though, is this measured move level, which clearly is acting as support. It had support right there. It had support when price pushed back in and held on it. You don't want to enter short directly into that, especially combining it with entering into the EMA. So unfortunately, there's just no short here. It can be tempting seeing two legs up like that in a red bar, but it could easily tick lower, retest the overnight low, which would stop you out if you had entered, and then it could go right where you thought it was. So it's just not ideal to enter right into resistance level like that, or support level. It clearly is showing it's acting as support. It's not worth entering right into it. So anyway, we continue on lower here. Excuse me. So we continue on lower here. We get these two legs down here. As soon as that measured move is met, it finds resistance, attempts to reverse. There's no clear shorts on the way down. We just have this downtrend here. Break, new low, reversal attempt, and then, obviously it's just the one attempt to reverse. You don't get the two attempts to get in on a failure for. You just get the one attempt, and so we continue on lower without a trade. And then, again, we reach that measured move here. Immediately, price attempts to reverse. This is a great place for a reversal pattern. If you push above here, a nice push above, 2 clear legs back, you can get a reversal pattern even though you're in this downtrend here. Like, it's okay to enter along in a downtrend as long as you have room to the other side and you have good context for it. In this case here, we're coming off the lows. At first, of course, you would draw the low there, and then as it pushes lower, you'd extend it. But the point is, we're coming off the low. When you come off one side of a channel, you can expect price to reach the other side. And so if you get a good reversal pattern with room, you can still take a long. It's not like it's been in a, we're still very close to the overnight session, see the overnight range. So it's not like it's been just dropping like crazy here. So we can still get a long if we get a good reversal pattern. But we just don't get one. We make this lower high right here. It's not a good looking one. It's a bad bar. Also, I just want to show, you can see there's a 2-legged move up there, but this second leg is just not nearly as big as this first leg. And again, considering price is expected to reach the other side, this acts as a magnet up here, and so you don't want to combine this with this expecting this bad bar to work. It could easily tick lower here, push up, reach the measured move, and then go right where you thought it was going to go. So this is just not good enough. We continue on lower here without a trade. We overshoot the downtrend. Now, overshoots tend to lead to breaks. Oftentimes when you overshoot a trend, it'll immediately just spike to the other direction and break out. Now, in this case here, it just continues with the overshoot. It just, kind of starts forming its own trend. It's not, snapping back to the other side. And so oftentimes what you'll do, if it continues to just overshoot, is you can look to actually extend this trend line. But you want to give it time first. You don't want to just immediately do it. You want to wait for a swing to form. And so we continue lower here. It's not forming clear swings. It's really just working its way down, very choppy. Price attempts to reverse back in here, but after one attempt, it fails. And of course, after one attempt, you don't want to go short. You want to see a 2-legged move, especially after an overshoot. Again, with overshoots commonly leading to breaks, you do not want to assume that the overshoot's going to continue, especially after just one leg. You want to wait for a clear 2 attempts to reverse, and if price is unable to snap back, then you can look to continue short. But just not good enough here. We make this lower high, very choppy lower high, not a good bar anyway, entering into the lows, clearly forming some kind of support right here. This is just really not good for a short. And so anyway, we push lower here. Now notice that this downtrend, this new downtrend right here, which is forming, has an overshoot. This overshoot immediately leads to 2 attempts in the other direction. Now, at this point here, price does retest this level right here, but it's still within this trend. Even though it has 2 legs, it doesn't look good for a short. It's still above the EMA. It's inside of this trend right here, and it really just looks like one leg. Even though you can still see there's 2 legs there. On a slightly bigger picture, it's just one leg, hence why it's fitting all in one channel. I would want to see something confirmed below the EMA, like it push lower and just offer a good lower high below the EMA. But as soon as it ticks lower here, it just really struggles to get through the EMA. So, unfortunately, it doesn't give us that lower high we want, but it continues on lower here. We push on down, and then very suddenly we get a spike back up. It just kind of continued the overshoot after that retest. And again, after this swing forms, you can look to extend it. And then if price holds on to it more, then you just have a wider channel. But we have yet to do that yet. Price has yet to retest these lows. But it doesn't mean you want to just extend it instantly. You still have to consider the fact that there's overshoots. You still have to consider this overshoot even when you extend it down. You don't want to confuse yourself thinking there's not an overshoot anymore just because you extended the trend line. It can be easy to trick your mind like that sometimes. So anyway, we continue sideways here. After this push down, it really, just makes a double bottom nearly. Pushing on up here, the EMA is starting to go flat. This is looking like a range. And now when we push up, push back down, clearly forming support right here when we bounce up right there. And then as we bounce up, that's when it's clear to see that we have a 2-legged move here. So this measured move is met at these highs right here. Perfect reaction, pushing back below. I liked it once it got below the EMA. The bar right here isn't completely perfect, but, because it went up a little bit. It's still bearish, though. But we have such bearish context, and then it's right at this perfect measured move at this range high with a good overall reaction. So I really liked this trade right here. It had room to the lows, really great looking. So anyway, we push on lower here. Now when we reach these lows here, there's a chance that price could attempt to push back up and reach the other side. Now when we reach it here, we only have one clear leg, so you would want to wait on a break and 2 attempts at a new low, and then you can get along there. But in this case here, we end up just breaking out. Price attempts to fade, pushes back lower as soon as it reaches the EMA. We continue on lower here, push above again, price attempting to fade again. You know, we make this higher low, but it doesn't get back above the channel. You know, on this green bar it does, but you know, clearly price was unable to hold above. I would want to see a clear failed second entry before going long, especially with how bearish price has been all day. So I would want to see a very clear reversal pattern. You can look for a long even after it's been going down this long. It just has to have perfect context. You know, overall it's very bearish, but if you are fading back into a clear range, you can absolutely look for a long still. It just has to be a good setup, which we don't get here. So at this point here, you know, some might view this as a failed second entry. You know, starting from this low, we have first entry short, second entry short, failure. The way I view this is just simply uptrend, has a break, new high, it's played out, price attempted to reverse, and then it couldn't get back above the EMA until pushing right into the previous high, which is obviously not ideal for a reversal pattern, especially given what I just said about how it's overall bearish. So really nothing here. You know, what could have happened was, like say this push up continued a little bit further, and then you get 2 clear legs attempting to reverse. That would be just a 2-legged break from this uptrend, which would be a big picture failed second entry, which means you'd be able to look for a long, but it ends up continuing on way too low. You know, it kind of starts doing it. You get your 2 legs back, but it ends up just, you know, it ends up not offering anything above the EMA. Just really not ideal for a long. Yeah, just way too bearish overall. So anyway, I'm going to hop over to the NQ now. We're going to go over that. Now, starting off, again, I started trading at 8 Central Time. I started looking at both these markets at the same time. 8 o'clock is around here for the NQ. And we have the overnight high, overnight low. These are our key levels again. And so when we start off here, we get this downtrend, get a break, clear 2-legged break. If we had met this measured move and then pushed below the EMA, we could have found a short, but considering this support right here and the clear reaction to it, I wanted to see price reach the measured move. It wasn't good enough, you know, just kind of going sideways, then pushing below the EMA. I wanted to see a real hold off of support or a resistance, which we just didn't have here. And again, especially after that clear support bounce right there, I really wanted to see the measured move met, or at least, you know, push back below and offer a failed second entry, just offer another setup, which it doesn't do. You know, we get this lower high right here. It doesn't even reach the EMA, and it's a bad bar. We do have this red bar after, but again, it didn't reach the EMA, so nothing to take there. We continue on lower here. This downtrend has a break and a new low, so it's considered played out at this point. It's much more likely to reverse, which price attempts to do. It pushes back above the EMA here, but it immediately gets choppy and sideways. So really just nothing to take. And so anyway, we push on lower here. We reach the overnight low at this point. Now, it might be a little bit difficult to see because it's kind of chopping around, but price action is still playing out just like normal here. Let me just get this drawn up. This downtrend has a break in 2 attempts at a new low. The measured move was not met because it was held up by the overnight low, but as soon as that second attempt lower, you know, found support there, it immediately attempted to reverse. So this is very typical to see. This is a great place for a failed second entry. If price had just pushed above and then, you know, just pushes out here, 2 clear legs back, you can look for a failed second entry. Obviously, this trend line wasn't blocking at that time because I extended price to it after that swing formed, and so obviously it would be like this. It was already breaking out of that thing. And so anyway, let me just put this back. So anyway, great place for a reversal pattern. We just don't get one. It ends up pushing back below the EMA very quickly after that bounce. We start to get choppy at the overnight lower again here. Again, we can still push up from there into a failed second entry, but it just continues lower. We meet the measured move at that point. We break out of the overnight low. Now, again, it still hasn't completely taken off yet. There's still a chance at this point for a reversal pattern from here, which price attempts to fade back in, but very quickly after getting back into the overnight low, price starts pushing back lower. No way to get in on a long or a short here. It's just not clear enough at this point. This wider trend line is forming off that swing, and then it's holding right there as well. So you don't want to enter long into that. And of course, there's no good short entries. If price holds to the short side here and pushes lower and you get a sharp push down with a couple legs back, making a failed second entry, you can look to get short and continue with the breakout. Because on that failed second entry, like if price pushes lower and you get 2 clear legs back, this acts as your 2 attempts to fade. Just like I was saying, after a breakout, you want to see 2 attempts to fade before entering with the breakout. A reversal pattern, a failed second entry in this area here would include those 2 attempts to fade, and so you'd be able to get in on the failure. It just doesn't occur here. So unfortunately, it takes off without us. We continue on lower here. We go into this downtrend, and then with this downtrend here, we finally get a break, clear 2-legged break. Now, the reason I like this short right here after it pushes back below is because it held on this previous this trend line right here. So this isn't necessarily the midline. Let me just delete this really quick. So at first I have this downtrend, it's off these highs. Let me adjust it really quick because, yeah, there we go. Off of that swing there, because that's the last swing. The lows are fitting well. We overshoot. Again, overshoots lead to breaks, and we get 2 clear attempts to fade. Or not, I don't mean to say fade, I mean to reach the other side. If I mess up on terms, sometimes I'll mess up on the chart terms and call something else, but whatever. So we have 2 attempts to reverse after the overshoot. Price is held down by that trend line and then pushes below the EMA. This is a lot more clear than what we had on the ES on the channel retest. So here we have, again, sharp reaction after 2 clear attempts to reverse, pushing below the EMA. We have room to the previous low. This is a great looking second entry trade right here. So I really like that. Not to mention this overshoot stemmed from this very clear sharp leg. It was going more shallow before this very sudden steep push down, 2-legged break. So this is actually a big picture failed second entry. Starting from this move here, we have first entry long, second entry long, failure. So we can look to make a new low for that downtrend there. This trade right here has really great context overall. There's a lot of good things going for it. So anyway, we continue on lower here. Target is met right before that low. We continue lower. As soon as it breaks that low, it starts to get choppy here. Price attempts to reverse. Oh yeah, and I just want to mention, because I had that other channel drawn, this right here was at first basically a perfect 2-tier channel, because if you copy this channel over and drag the new high directly to where that low is, it matches perfectly right there, and again right there. So this is market geometry. This is, this is not a coincidence. Okay, this is how the market moves. It is geometrical. It's able to be read like a language. Perfect width of this channel copied over to the, drag it to right there. It is matching absolutely perfectly. So you really got to understand how the chart works. Believe me, when you understand all the little things like this, it just becomes so much easier to trade. So anyway, we push on lower here. Again, we reach through that target here. It starts to get choppy after it breaks that low, like I said, and then we get another attempt to reverse. We push out of this range right here, this little tiny range, and then price fades back in. Now, unfortunately, there's no clear way to get in on this fade because it's just a first entry, and I would like to see another retest of this previous level right here for a short. But we don't get that. We just continue on lower here. Now, at this point here, we get these 2 legs up. So first leg up, break, second leg up, just like on the ES we had, in the same area we had this. But, it had a good push above the EMA, which is, one, not good for a short, but I would have just liked to see it actually reach up more and make a clear second leg, and then get below the EMA. Not sharp push above the EMA and then barely get back below it with a way smaller leg. I would want to see it actually make a good second leg and then get below the EMA. Because, it could easily tick lower here and then just continue up, stop you out, and then make another clear leg up, and then you get a short at this high once it pushes below the EMA. So, it's just really not a good short right here. So anyway, we continue lower here, and then we actually overshoot this extended channel. And so when we overshoot, again, overshoots lead to breaks, but what we instantly get is 2 attempts to reverse. It's small, but it's still clear. Okay, a lot of times I'll talk about bigger picture. I don't necessarily care if something is small like this. It just has to be able to be gone for 1-to-1, with confidence. And in this case here, we have 2 clear measured legs up, wicking off of the EMA, closing back below. Very clear retest of this channel right here, this channel, this this trend line. And so I really like this right here, getting out at that low, not pushing it too far. Even though it's small, it's still clear and can be gone for 1-to-1. So that's why I like this right here. And so anyway, we push on down here. Once again, the 1-to-1 target is right at that low. We push through it there. Price attempts to reverse after we make a new low, but it's not a clear 2-legged move. It's just kind of choppy. You can see there's 2 legs in there because we have these green bars, and the red bar is the correction, and then the second leg up is that green bar. But it's not clear like we have separations on this one. It's just a leg up. And so nothing here. We continue on lower. We're going into this little channel right here. Now this channel gets an overshoot, 2 legs back right here. So I'm just going to mention, for those who might not fully understand, the ES and the NQ, they do follow each other. They're not going to follow each other exactly, but you're probably noticing a lot of similarities between the ES chart and the NQ chart. So some days they're going to look a lot more similar, some days they're going to look totally different. So it's just about each day basically. So anyway, after that overshoot, price has 2 clear attempts to reverse. Sometimes after an overshoot, it'll kind of even out like it did here, but then after another overshoot of a new channel, then you'll get more significant attempts to reverse. As you can see right here, that's what happens. At that measured move, price pushes on down. Now, it was very thin. I didn't want to enter short right there. It wasn't off of any clear resistance other than the measured move, and I didn't want to enter into this low right here. There was, it was really thin as well. It just didn't look perfect for a short. But right after, we get this lower high, and I just want to mention, since we've had 2 clear attempts to reverse and it was unable to reverse, we can look to extend this channel right here to this swing. And so now, since again, after that overshoot, it failed to reverse, we can look to extend the channel again, and we have plenty of room. Clear lower high, still expecting a second attempt down because this downtrend right here has a break. First attempt lower, second attempt lower, on a trap. Notice it ticked above that green bar and then just trapped on down, hitting the stops below. So this is a great looking trade. Even though it was getting a little tiny bit stacked, the overall bigger picture context was great for a short. And again, right after those 2 attempts to reverse after this overshoot. So this was really good, for the overall context, because it's 2 attempts to reverse after this overshoot of this little trend, but overall we're still extremely bearish. So I really like that right there for 1-to-1. We push on lower here, we make this new low, and then as we make this new low, we very suddenly get 2 sharp legs up. Now, I'm going to go over this part right here, but I'm going to hop back to the ES just for 1 second. Now, notice here, this is the same thing. So here's the ES right here, and then here's the NQ again. So they look very similar, but it didn't quite set up perfectly on the NQ. Now, I didn't like how the measured move wasn't met, even though it pushed below the EMA, and it was, it did reach this right here. I really would have liked it to have met the measured move. Now, for me, I was really just focusing on the ES. I didn't even open the NQ while I was, doing this trade right here. I didn't even open the NQ chart, but I would have liked to see that met, had I paid attention to this. But, it still looks pretty decent because it's reacting pretty clearly to this level right here. I don't like how it got pretty choppy and it was unable to, we have all these dojis. I mean, they're not really dojis because they're closing on the high. They're not closing in the middle, closing on the high there, low there. But when you're, making wick bars like this and then another wick bar in the opposite direction, another wick bar, that's market confusion. This is basically just price not knowing what it's doing. It clearly went sideways for a bit there. It just didn't set up as good on the NQ. And sometimes, because this can confuse people, sometimes if there's a really good looking trade on one market and then it doesn't quite look as good on the other one, some people will still enter both. But I would say not to do that. If you have a great looking trade on the ES, but it doesn't set up as well on the NQ, that doesn't mean you have to take it on the NQ just because it looks really good on the ES. Now in this case here, after it pushes below the EMA, I do like the way that it looks because, again, overall, 2 legs up, clear reaction to this level right here, which is held before. So I do still like this trade here, but I was just using this as an example to say that just because one looks good and the other doesn't mean you have to take them on both. But in this case here, after it gets below the EMA, it does look good enough. But yeah, I was not trading this market at the time. I was just too focused over on the ES here, and so I just didn't even consider flipping over to the NQ. Sometimes that happens. But yeah, in this case here, I do like it, but I missed it. We continue on lower here. We have some reaction to that low right there because we are going in this range here, but it ends up pushing on through. Price attempts to fade after it breaks out, but unsuccessful. It ends up just pushing back lower at that, that support there. We continue lower, make a new low. Finally, we get another 2 legs up. The first leg obviously stops right at that low. The second leg manages to fade back in. And of course, this stuff must have just happened as I was making the video. And so anyway, we push on up here, continue lower. This does not hold very well. It holds, but you still can't enter on it because it's pushing below the EMA and below this low right here. So it's still barely within the low. Let me adjust it, get it accurate there. It's still barely within it, but it did close back out of it, and then unable to get back above the EMA for 2 bars in a row is really not good for a long. I would want to, again, also with how bearish it is. So you just want to be careful. What I'd like to see is a clear push above and then 2 attempts back, holding above the EMA and the channel low, the range low. And then you can look for a long, even in an overall bearish bias, but you would need room to this level right here because this level, even though it's more like the midline, it has shown to be a very clear, strong level. So you do not want to enter right into it. Anyway, price pushes on lower here. Again, continuing this channel, the overall downtrend, and you can look for a failed second entry in this area. You can look for a short. If price pushes lower and you get 2 attempts to fade the range, that would form a failed second entry stemming from the high because it would be like this. You'd have your push lower, and then you can have your first attempt, second attempt. So first entry long, second entry long, failure, and that would include the 2 attempts to fade. So you could look for a short there. It just doesn't set up like that. It just continues on lower. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way. This video is quite long. This is almost 30 minutes. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.